From a company that initially rejected the show to boats selling for $20 million on eBay, with experts calling it ambitious, Miami Vice's Scarab Powerboat story involves racing legends, Lamborghini V-12 engines, canceled rival boats, and a bizarre continuity error where the wrong boat magically reappeared 3 years later. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about Miami Vice's Scarab Powerboat. Fact 1. Wellcraft's Beatles-level blunder. When Universal Studios first reached out to Wellcraft Marine to provide a boat for their new show, Miami Vice, the company turned them down flat. It's a decision that would later be compared to Decca Records rejecting the Beatles, and for good reason. At the time, Wellcraft didn't see the value in dedicating resources and manufacturing capacity to a television production that might not even succeed. They politely declined, and Universal Studios moved on to their second choice. Chris Craft stepped in and supplied their Stinger model for the entire first season, gaining invaluable exposure as millions of viewers watched Don Johnson race across Biscayne Bay every week. By the time Season 1 wrapped, Wellcraft executives realized they'd made a massive miscalculation. The show was a cultural phenomenon, and Chris Craft was reaping all the benefits of product placement that money couldn't buy. Wellcraft's leadership scrambled to reverse course and approached the producers with an offer so compelling that Universal couldn't refuse. They would design a custom boat specifically for the show, provide multiple units for filming, and give Don Johnson his own personal model as a sweetener. The deal worked, and starting in Season 2, the Scarab became as iconic as Crockett's pastel suits. Industry insiders still refer to Wellcraft's initial rejection as one of the most short-sighted marketing decisions in marine history, a cautionary tale about recognizing opportunity when it presents itself. The company eventually made the partnership work brilliantly, but they learned an expensive lesson about saying no too quickly. Fact 2. The KV has a secret meaning. Most people assume the letters KV and the Scarab 38 KV stand for something generic or arbitrary, but the designation carries significant meaning in the offshore racing world. The K pays tribute to Kama, a legendary offshore racing team that dominated world championship competitions and pioneered revolutionary surface drive technology that changed powerboat design forever. Kama's innovations allowed boats to achieve higher speeds with better fuel efficiency and handling characteristics, making them darlings of the racing circuit throughout the 1980s. Their technical achievements were so respected that when Wellcraft wanted to create a high-performance variant of their Scarab line, they specifically honored the team by incorporating that initial K into the model name. The V was more straightforward, standing directly for Vice as a nod to the television show that would make this particular model famous. Essentially, Wellcraft was naming their boat after racing royalty, while simultaneously acknowledging the entertainment partnership that would drive sales through the roof. It was a clever bit of branding that connected the boat to both legitimate offshore racing credibility and pop culture relevance. Racing enthusiasts appreciated the Kama reference, understanding it signified a vessel with serious performance credentials, while casual buyers were drawn to the Miami Vice connection. The name worked on multiple levels, appealing to different segments of Wellcraft's customer base, while creating a model designation that told a complete story about where the boat came from and what it represented in both sporting and cultural contexts. Fact 3. Over 130 paint colors in one boat. The Scarab's distinctive paint scheme wasn't created by a team of designers working in isolation. It involved direct input from Don Johnson himself, who spent hours working with Wellcraft's paint specialists to achieve exactly the right look. The final design incorporated more than 130 different hues of turquoise, aqua, and orchid, blending them in subtle gradients that caught light differently depending on the angle and time of day. This wasn't accidental or excessive for the sake of complexity. Creator Michael Mann had an extremely strict aesthetic vision for Miami Vice, demanding that every visual element from clothing to cars to boats fit within a carefully controlled pastel color palette that defined the show's signature style. The boat needed to look like it belonged in Mann's meticulously art-directed Miami, which meant standard factory colors wouldn't cut it. Johnson and the paint team spent weeks testing different combinations, applying samples, and evaluating how the colors appeared both on the water and on camera under various lighting conditions. The result was so striking that people in the marine industry started calling it the Picasso of boats, acknowledging that the paint job itself was a work of art. Each color transitioned smoothly into the next, creating an effect that appeared simple on screen but required incredible technical precision to execute. The custom paint alone added thousands of dollars to the production cost of each filming boat, but Universal considered it a worthwhile investment because the Scarab's distinctive appearance became instantly recognizable to audiences worldwide. Fact 4. The rival boat that got canceled. Wellcraft found itself in an unusual predicament during the mid-1980s when it purchased the Excalibur 40 Hawk, suddenly owning two competing long-deck performance boats under the same corporate roof. The Excalibur was designed to appeal to the same customer base as the Scarab, creating internal competition that any business strategist would recognize as problematic. Both boats targeted wealthy buyers who wanted speed, style, and offshore capability, meaning Wellcraft was essentially competing against itself in dealer showrooms. Then Miami Vice changed everything. After the Scarab appeared on television starting in Season 2, Wellcraft experienced a 21% surge in sales almost immediately. Customers weren't just buying any Wellcraft model, they specifically wanted the Scarab because it was Crockett's boat. Dealers reported that buyers would come in asking for the Miami Vice boat by name, often with little interest in hearing about other options. Faced with this reality, Wellcraft made a calculated business decision that might seem ruthless but was perfectly logical from a market perspective. They simply canceled the Excalibur line entirely, discontinuing production and focusing all their resources on maximizing Scarab sales, while the Miami Vice wave was still cresting. The Excalibur hadn't done anything wrong from a performance or design standpoint, but it couldn't compete with the cultural phenomenon of a boat that millions of people watched every Friday night. In essence, the Scarab's television success killed its own corporate sibling. Wellcraft prioritized the model with momentum and dropped the one that couldn't benefit from primetime exposure, demonstrating how powerful entertainment product placement can reshape entire product lines virtually overnight. Fact 5. Chris Craft. Quit. Over the wrong name. Chris Craft's departure from Miami Vice after Season 1 wasn't solely about Wellcraft making a better offer. There was genuine frustration brewing behind the scenes over how their boat was being portrayed in scripts. The problem centered on terminology. Multiple episodes featured characters referring to the Chris Craft Stinger as a cigarette boat, which is a generic term many people use for any fast offshore powerboat. To most viewers, this seemed harmless, but Chris Craft executives saw it differently. The term cigarette boat originated from cigarette racing, a direct competitor in the high-performance marine market. Using that term was essentially free advertising for a rival company, and Chris Craft felt their product placement arrangement should have protected against such mistakes. They raised concerns with the production team, asking writers to use either Stinger or simply Powerboat instead. Despite these requests, the terminology issues continued appearing in scripts throughout Season 1. From Chris Craft's perspective, they were providing expensive boats for filming, dealing with the logistics of transportation and maintenance, and yet the show kept referencing their competitor by name on national television. When Wellcraft came along with an offer for Season 2, Chris Craft didn't fight to keep the partnership. The naming controversy had already soured the relationship, making it easier to walk away. In hindsight, This decision cost Chris Craft years of primetime exposure during Miami Vice's peak popularity. The Stinger would fade from public consciousness while the Scarab became permanently linked to the show in popular culture. A seemingly minor script-writing issue about boat terminology ended up having major long-term consequences for Chris Craft's brand recognition. Fact 6. Don Johnson commuted to work in a Lamborghini. Well, Craft's appreciation for the sales explosion Miami Vice generated went beyond simple thank you notes. They gave Don Johnson an exact duplicate of the filming boat to keep as his personal vessel. This wasn't a scaled-down model or a different color scheme. It was genuinely identical to the boats used on camera, down to the custom paint job and interior specifications. Johnson loved the gesture and immediately put the boat to practical use in a way that delighted both him and the production crew. When filming schedules called for scenes at the Miami docks or other waterfront locations, Johnson would often bypass his car entirely and pilot his personal Scarab directly to the set. Imagine the surreal experience for crew members setting up equipment on a dock, looking up to see Don Johnson arriving in character-appropriate style, steering the exact same boat he'd be using for filming that day. It blurred the line between Johnson's real life and his role as Sonny Crockett in ways that few other shows could match. He wasn't just an actor playing a detective. He was legitimately a boat enthusiast who happened to own the same vessel his character used. This meant that in some scenes, depending on logistics and which boat was needed for specific shots, viewers might have actually been watching Johnson operate his own personal property rather than a studio boat. The arrangement also meant Johnson became intimately familiar with handling the Scarab in all conditions, making his on-screen boat chases more authentic because he genuinely knew how to push the vessel to its limits without relying entirely on stunt drivers for every water sequence. Fact 7. Only 103 total KVs were ever made. The Scarab 38 KV wasn't mass-produced like standard boat models. It occupied a rarefied space in marine manufacturing with strictly limited production numbers. Over a 5-year manufacturing run, Wellcraft built exactly 103 total KVs, splitting them into 2 distinct categories. 61 were standard versions sold through normal dealer channels to customers who wanted a high-performance Scarab but didn't necessarily need the television connection. The remaining 42 were designated Vice Editions, with specific cosmetic details and features that more closely matched what appeared on screen. Of those 42 Vice Editions, only 33 actually reached public hands through dealership sales. The other 9 had a different destiny entirely. They went directly to Universal Studios for filming purposes, with some units loaned to Don Johnson each model year, so he always had access to the newest version. This limited production created immediate collectability. Unlike mass-market boats, where thousands of units saturate the used market, potential buyers knew that owning a Scarab 38 KV meant joining an exclusive club of barely 100 people worldwide. The Vice Editions were even rarer, and the actual filming boats represented the ultimate prize for collectors. Wellcraft could have manufactured more units to capitalize on Miami Vice's popularity, but they maintained production limits that preserved the model's exclusivity. This strategy worked brilliantly for long-term value retention. Decades later, these boats command premium prices, specifically because serious enthusiasts know exactly how few exist. When one appears for sale, collectors understand they're competing for one of 103 ever made, making each transaction feel significant rather than routine. Fact 8. The $20 million eBay listing experts mocked. In 2019, one of Don Johnson's verified filming boats appeared on eBay with a listing price that made marine industry professionals do double takes: $20 million. The seller wasn't joking or making a typographical error. They genuinely believed this particular Scarab warranted an 8-figure price tag because of its documented television provenance. The listing emphasized its authentic filming history, complete with paperwork tracing its chain of custody from Universal Studios through various owners over the decades. To casual observers unfamiliar with the boat market, $20 million might have seemed reasonable for such an iconic piece of television history. After all, famous cars from movies regularly sell for seven figures at auction, so why not a boat? Industry experts quickly provided reality checks. Larry Smith, one of the original designers involved with the Scarab KV project, called the asking price ambitious in interviews, which was diplomatic language for wildly unrealistic. Smith and other marine appraisers estimated the boat's actual market value at around $300,000 if properly restored to pristine condition. Even accounting for the Miami Vice connection adding a premium above what a non-filming boat might fetch, they couldn't justify anything close to $20 million. That meant the asking price exceeded realistic valuations by approximately $19.7 million. A gap so enormous it suggested the seller either profoundly misunderstood the collectible boat market or hoped to find one extremely wealthy and uninformed Miami Vice superfan. The listing eventually disappeared without any reported sale, becoming a cautionary tale about the difference between sentimental value and actual market value in the collectibles world. Fact 9. Continuity Nightmare. In Season 4, the Season 4 episode Baseballs of Death contains one of Miami Vice's most glaring continuity errors, and it happened because of practical production decisions rather than carelessness. During post-production, editors realized they needed additional footage for a boat chase sequence, but didn't have the budget or scheduling flexibility to organize another full water shoot with the Scarab. Someone discovered unused footage from Season 1 sitting in the archive library, perfectly good action shots of a powerboat that would fit the scene's requirements. The problem was that Season 1 predated the Scarab entirely. That archived footage showed Crockett's original Chris Craft Stinger, which had a completely different design with blue and white coloring instead of the Scarab's distinctive pastel scheme. The editors decided the footage was too good to waste and spliced it into the episode anyway, presumably hoping viewers wouldn't notice the boat literally transforming mid-chase. They were wrong. Sharp-eyed fans immediately caught the error, and it became one of the most discussed continuity mistakes in the show's entire run. Crockett's boat changes from the Scarab to the old Stinger in the middle of a single pursuit sequence, then changes back again. Even more jarring, Don Johnson's hair length and clothing also shift between shots because the Season 1 footage was filmed years earlier when styling choices were different. His hair goes from shorter and more controlled to longer and wilder between cuts, and his outfit changes entirely. It's a continuity nightmare that pulls viewers straight out of the scene once they notice what happened, serving as a reminder that even prestigious shows sometimes prioritize practicality over perfect consistency. Fact 10. 6 filming boats with unique differences. Universal Studios acquired 9 Scarab KVs for Miami Vice production, but only 6 of them saw regular filming duty. The studio designated these working boats with the Star naming system, and each one developed unique identifying characteristics that sharp-eyed enthusiasts learned to recognize. Star 1 featured a custom camera platform mounted at the back, allowing crew members to capture follow shots without requiring a separate camera boat in frame. It also incorporated dry exhaust systems that provided better performance characteristics during high-speed sequences. Star 2 had distinctive butterfly-style hatches secured with piano hinges, and it included railings positioned between the intake vents that don't appear on other models. These railings were subtle but visible in certain shots, giving fans a way to identify which specific boat appeared in different scenes. The variations weren't intentional from a storytelling perspective. They resulted from practical production needs where different modifications served specific filming requirements. Some boats were better suited for close-up dialogue scenes, while others handled high-speed action work more reliably. Serious Miami Vice fans who studied episodes carefully could actually track which Star boat appeared in which scenes based on these telltale details. It became something of a nerd challenge in fan communities, with people freeze-framing episodes and debating whether a particular shot Use Star 1 or Star 2 based on barely visible features. The production team never intended for these differences to be noticeable to average viewers, but the boat's unique characteristics created an unintended layer of technical detail that dedicated fans turned into a fascinating subculture of Miami Vice analysis. Fact 11. Don Johnson won a world championship. Don Johnson's passion for powerboats extended far beyond his on-screen role, developing into genuine competitive racing involvement that culminated in legitimate championship credentials. His obsession with offshore racing led him to create Team USA, a racing outfit that included some surprising Hollywood names on its roster. Kurt Russell and Chuck Norris both participated in the team's activities, bringing together action stars who shared a love for high-speed water competition. Johnson wasn't content to be a celebrity figurehead who showed up for photos while professional racers did the actual work. He learned the technical aspects of offshore racing and put himself in real competitive situations. In 1988, Johnson achieved what many television actors only pretend to accomplish on screen. He won the Offshore World Cup. The victory came while racing in Tom Gentry's triple-engine Scarab, with professional throttleman Bill Sirois handling the speed controls while Johnson managed steering and strategy. This division of labor is standard in professional offshore racing, where two-person teams split responsibilities to maintain optimal performance at sustained high speeds. Some critics might downplay Johnson's achievement by pointing out he had Sirois on the throttle, but that misunderstands how offshore racing works. Both crew members must perform flawlessly or the team fails. Johnson's World Cup win cemented his legitimate credentials in the racing community, transforming him from actor who likes boats into racer who happens to act. It demonstrated that his Miami Vice boat scenes came from genuine expertise rather than pure acting, and it earned him respect in racing circles where wealthy celebrity dabblers are usually dismissed as tourists playing at a serious sport. Fact 12. The Lamborghini-powered signature series. Don Johnson's boat enthusiasm reached its peak when he decided standard Scarabs weren't enough. He wanted to design his own custom model from scratch. Working with Wellcraft engineers, Johnson created a 43-foot Scarab XL variant that pushed both design and budget boundaries significantly further than anything in the standard product line. The signature feature was the power plant. Twin Lamborghini V-12 engines, each producing 650 horsepower. These weren't marine engines adapted from automotive components. They were genuine Lamborghini power plants requiring extensive modification to function in a marine environment. Each engine cost between $60,000 and $70,000, meaning just the propulsion system represented over $120,000 before any other components were considered. The Lamborghini engines created immediate design challenges. Their physical dimensions were larger than typical marine engines, forcing Wellcraft's engineers to reconfigure the entire engine compartment and hull structure to accommodate their size. The weight distribution had to be recalculated, cooling systems needed custom design, and the entire drivetrain required specialized components that weren't available off the shelf. When all modifications, custom features, and the hull itself were factored together, Johnson's Scarab XL cost over $300,000 to produce. Adjusted for inflation, that represents approximately $840,000 in today's economy. The boat existed in a rarefied space where pure performance and celebrity prestige justified costs that made no practical sense. It was never intended for mass production or normal consumer purchase. It was a statement piece that demonstrated how far Johnson's passion for powerboats had evolved beyond his Miami Vice role into genuine boat design and engineering collaboration. Fact 13. The boat colors changed with the plot. Miami Vice became famous for using visual elements to reinforce narrative tone, and the Scarab's paint schemes evolved throughout the series to reflect the show's darkening storylines. During seasons 3 and 4, when the plots grew more serious and dealt with heavier themes about corruption and moral compromise, the boat's colors shifted noticeably. The bright pastels that characterized earlier seasons gave way to deeper silver tones that caught light differently and created a more subdued, sophisticated appearance. This wasn't accidental weathering or fading from sun exposure. It represented deliberate production choices to ensure the boat matched the show's evolving aesthetic as it moved away from the almost playful brightness of its early episodes. The change was subtle enough that casual viewers might not have consciously noticed, but it contributed to the overall atmosphere that made later seasons feel distinct from the beginning of the series. Season 5 brought another intentional shift in the opposite direction. As the show attempted to recapture some of its original energy while still acknowledging the character development that had occurred, the Scarab returned to aquatones closer to the original palette. However, the design team added new arrowhead details that hadn't appeared in earlier seasons, creating visual freshness that acknowledged this wasn't simply returning to Season 2's aesthetic, but rather evolving forward. The boat's appearance literally reflected the show's tonal shifts, serving as a floating metaphor for how the series changed over time. It demonstrated how Miami Vice's creators thought about every visual element as part of the storytelling apparatus, rather than treating vehicles and props as static background elements that remained unchanged throughout production. Fact 14. 2 boats required for every shoot. Miami Vice's production protocols demanded that 2 identical Scarabs be present at every water filming location, a logistical requirement that significantly complicated scheduling and transportation. The boats were designated Hero and Backup, with the Hero boat used for primary filming and the Backup standing ready in case mechanical problems, weather damage, or accidents took the main vessel out of commission. This redundancy was essential because water shoots are extremely expensive to organize. Coordinating crew, camera boats, safety personnel, and securing locations for marine filming meant that canceling or postponing a shoot due to equipment failure would cost tens of thousands of dollars. Having a backup boat immediately available meant production could continue even if the Hero boat experienced problems. The 2 boats were maintained to nearly identical specifications, making it almost impossible for viewers to distinguish between them on screen. Production assistants worked to ensure both vessels showed the same wear patterns and surface characteristics so that switching between boats wouldn't create continuity errors. However, there were subtle tells for obsessive fans who studied episodes carefully. Star 2, which frequently served in the backup role, had telltale railings positioned between the intake vents that didn't appear on other filming boats. These railings were small enough that most viewers never consciously noticed them, but they provided a way for hardcore enthusiasts to identify which specific boat appeared in different scenes. The 2-boat requirement doubled Wellcraft's production support commitment and created complex logistics about transportation and storage. But Universal Studios considered it essential insurance against costly filming delays that would inevitably occur if they relied on a single vessel for all water work. Fact 15. The original featured no radar arch. The Miami Vice pilot episode featured a very specific Chris Craft Stinger model that differs from what most people remember seeing throughout Season 1. The pilot used a Stinger 390 without the standard radar arch because of a critical script requirement that would have been impossible with the arch in place. Early in the pilot, the boat needed to pass under an extremely low bridge during a chase sequence, and the production team calculated that a standard Stinger 390X with its raised radar arch wouldn't physically clear the bridge's vertical height restrictions. Rather than rewriting the scene or choosing a different location, they sourced a rare 390 variant without the arch, allowing them to film the sequence as scripted. Once the pilot proved successful and the series received a full season order, the production team switched to the 390X model, which included the radar arch that became part of the boat's iconic appearance, along with separated seat configuration that provided better camera angles for filming dialogue scenes between Crockett and Tubbs. The arch wasn't just decorative, It served practical purposes for marine navigation and communications equipment, making it a standard feature on most powerboats in this class. The pilot's archless boat was a practical compromise for a specific scene, but it means that technically, the very first boat audiences saw as Crockett's vessel was mechanically different from what appeared in subsequent episodes. This detail goes unnoticed by most viewers since the boats look similar enough from most angles, but it represents another example of how Miami Vice's production made practical adjustments based on filming needs while maintaining visual consistency for audiences.